Welcome. So last week we talked about story and characters, and now this week we're going to move into world building, starting with possibility spaces. So let's talk about game worlds. What goes into creating a world for a game? What makes it different from building in other media? Games are interactive, so the player must typically move through virtual spaces. That means that game designers must think both about space and movement when designing a setting. So, in other words, we will both be describing the context and the interaction of a place. Context talks about what are the spaces like to experience. Why should the player care about it? What makes it worth experiencing? And interaction talks about how the player makes decisions and travels within and between spaces. So, how does it facilitate gameplay and traversal within your game's world? So, one of these is more of an emotional, experiential, maybe narrative component where we talk about like the aesthetic of the space and the way that it's constructed and you know what is experiential and emotional about it. And then on the other end, we kind of talk about like the mechanics of it, like how are we literally getting from point A to point B as a player within a virtual space. And we need to define both of those things in order to be able to create an effective world. So possibilities or possibility spaces is a term that was coined by Warren Spector. And your world is a possibility space for players to use creative solutions to the problems the game poses. So possibilities for players include players of the kinds that we talked about before. Remember, our achievers, our explorers, our socializers, and our killers. They may all use spaces differently. And so we do kind of want to account for that. So how would players of different types interact differently with your world? Let's take the example of Hollow Knight, because that's the game that we're going to be playing this week. And so if we look at achievers, for example, their possibility space includes, 112 or whatever it's up to now for sending the game, fighting every boss, getting every achievement. For example, their space includes all of the ways that they can like achieve and get completion in the game. Explorers, their possibility space is about finding every hidden room, learning about the lore, experimenting with builds. Socializers want to talk to every character. They want to share and stream their experience, and perhaps they join a fan community, and then they can like continue to talk about that experience with other fans. So their possibility experience may actually extend outside the game itself and to all of this like meta discussion surrounding the game. And finally, killers will want to master hard bosses, perfect their build, max out their upgrades. So these are all different ways that the game can kind of accommodate the players, different kinds of players. So, as kind of a final question here, who designs spaces for traversal and experience? There is someone else besides game designers who does that, right? The answer is architects. Game designers have so much to learn from the field of architecture since it's all about creating feeling through space. If you know anything about art history or the sort of like architectural design, it's almost entirely about creating like these experiential places, creating feelings within people as they move from place to place. So if you'd like to, there are a couple of other videos that you can watch on this topic. So there's Architecture in Level Design by Claire Hosking and Environment Design and Spatial Cinematography by Miriam Bellard, which are both from the GDC Vault. And if you don't have access to those, I can probably help you if you're interested in getting access. I'm not sure if either of those are up on YouTube yet, but they're both amazing talks. And there are other talks if you search like GDC architecture about designing space, if that's something that you're interested in doing.